we've got 2 blueberries heading west, and that's our boy. You get that?
Yeah, I got him. Right place, right time. You got the range?
Get up!
That is 480, and I would hold 6/10 for wind.
I'm gonna hold 7/10. A little more wind out there.
All right, on you. He's still kicking. Take a 10th out of elevation.
That's a collateral, right?
No, that's 1 shot, 2 kills. Not 1 shot, 2 hits. Maybe next time. All right, stay on the gun. We'll get our dudes down there. Hilltop 3. Ready for pickup.
Civilians generally have a hard time acquiring crew-served weapons, a large mechanized force, or having air power, but what we do have is over 400 million firearms in the United States. So if we were to lean into our strengths, what would that look like? Well, I can tell you what it wouldn't look like. 4 or 5 guys all rocking the exact same equipment, like 11.5 rifles and the same gear on their plate carriers. We're gonna need a little bit of diversity inside of our capabilities and the tools that we would be using. You see, if just 1 guy out of every 5 was able to observe, range, and shoot out to 700 yards, that would greatly increase the capability of that team. And I know that a lot of us, ourselves included, had a preconceived notion of what recce was. You know, it's a style rifle or it's being a sniper, but it is so much more than that.
So today we're going to cover one of the things that we see as a gap in this conversation, which is observation, information gathering and intelligence, and how to be more than just a normal rifleman behind a scope. Now, I know we all have this preconceived idea about what a civilian sniper or civilian recon guy should be. But the fact of the matter is it comes down to 2 things. Number 1, it is not as glamorous or as high speed as what people make it out to be. And number 2, taking the shot is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's get into it. Guys, just a quick thank you to all of our sponsors that make content like this free and possible every single week for you guys to watch. First one being 100 Concepts. We've known these guys for years. They make incredible anti-reflective devices for scopes. They also make light covers to make sure that you don't accidentally hit your white light and turn it on, and I need to put one on there. You should go check them out, 100 Concepts.
Next, guys, we have Steel Industries. Now, if you don't own night vision, you should very seriously consider saving up and buying some, because it is it's like being Superman. You can literally see in the dark. But if you already own night vision, go get yourself some night vision accessories from Steel Industries. Discount is in the description. And lastly, I know that we like to post about a lot of high-end stuff because, well, we like nice stuff. But we also very much love Venture Surplus. You can absolutely go buy some quality products that have been used and tested from Venture Surplus. Again, link is in the description. Let's get back to the video. So first we have to talk about observation and information gathering. You have to think about it this way. Before you or anyone in life does anything, you ask yourself some basic questions, whether you know it or not, like when do I have to be there? How long is the drive time? Who's going with me? When are we gonna be back? And this is just standard operating procedure for everyone subconsciously. But man, if the power is down, if roadways are blocked, or even worse, if someone's shooting at you, the requirement for that information to be precise is magnified. So if you're actually going to be taking a step further into being an asset in this whole world, you're gonna need to pick up some new skill sets. Some things like learning to observe, drawing maps, reading maps, and then passing that information on to others as well.
So here are 2 things you can practice. Number 1, learn to remember. Okay, sounds silly because it's actually kind of hard to remember. So number 2, learn how to draw and take notes. You know, our phones and technology have made this kind of like a thing of the past. Like drawing skills, by and large, people don't have anymore. But being able to draw what you see and be able to hand that off to somebody else is a really big deal.
And this is something that they actually do in a lot of training. So I remember watching Surviving the Cut back when I was growing up, and there was an episode on the Marine Scout Sniper program, and they would train those trainees to sit on a hillside and just observe. Or maybe they would lay out a tarp with a lot of oddball items on the tarp. And the goal of the game was to remember as much detail about as much items as possible, just from memory. They'd cover that tarp, or they'd turn someone back around from that hillside and ask very detailed questions like, how far do you think that tree was? How many rocks were under that tree? Do you think that the rocks were big enough that a human could hide behind it? And that starts to train you to observe well. And this is also something that technology has taken away from us as humans. We spend so much time staring at our phone as we're going about life, we may not even recognize, hey, they're doing work off the highway, and they're probably going to be causing a traffic jam over the weekend or at a certain time.
Here's a great example of someone who sucks at this. So I was watching House of the Dragon with my wife, and there's an episode where one of the dragon riders is flying over an open field and spots a bunch of enemy troops on their way to, like, you know, conquer a castle or something. And she breathes fire at them, they run into the tree line, then she goes back and she reports on her findings. And what does she say? Oh, I saw Kristen Cole with his dudes going into a tree line. Really? That's all you had to say? How many guys was with them? What kind of armor did they have? What kind of weaponry did they have with them? What direction were they headed?
Well, I don't watch degenerate content like that. I only watch upstanding, wholesome content, like The Boys.
I'm stronger, I'm smarter, I'm better.
Regardless, that is a perfect segue into a salute report.
Ah, yes, the salute report. Not that kind of salute, Nick. S-A-L-U-T-E, like a salute.
All right, so what is the salute report? Well, using that acronym, we can start to remember the things that we're going to be gathering when observing someone or something. And you can apply this to deer hunting as well. So, size. How many people or deer are actually out there? Activity. What are they doing? Well, they're headed this way, or they're bedding down for the night. Location. Where are they? Point to it on the map. Then a unit, something that actually designates this is their enemy, they're wearing this color, and they all have the exact same patches on their helmets. Time. What time was this actually observed? Oh, a week ago. Great, that doesn't help us much. And finally, equipment. Oh, they all have 11.5 rifles. Be strange for deer. The equipment is another really big designator that can also tell you what their capabilities may be, and that's why that observation is really important.
Observation equipment. One of the most overlooked items, especially for dudes in our space, like tactical guys, is the binocular, because it's not cool, it's not fancy, it's not high speed. But the value of having a really good set of binoculars is the fact that, you know, a lot of people have scopes on their rifles and are like, oh, well, I can just scope in and observe whatever I need to. Sure, but just like we have handheld flashlights, so we don't have to point our weapon-mounted flashlight to something, the same is true with binoculars. Like, sometimes you want to observe something without pointing a rifle at it. I mean, I've seen guys on the range trying to take a look at something or someone far away and literally point their gun with a scope on it and think that that's okay. You don't have to do that. Having a good set of binos goes a long way. It's also an heirloom item. If you get a good set, that's something you can pass down to your kids. I mean, my dad gave me a great set of binoculars whenever I was a teenager. You can go fancy, you can go cheap, but all I would say is make sure that the glass clarity is like top notch, because one of the cool parts about these loopholed ones, which there's a lot of different brands that make good ones. This is a much more expensive one. It has a rangefinder built in, but I can tell you this, at even 800 meters, I can see and I can get a crystal clear picture of someone, and I can tell whether or not their eyes are open or closed. I mean, that kind of clarity is what you really want. And if you're working in a team, having someone on glass looking at things, spotting things for you, calling stuff out, giving you information goes a very, very long way. The magnification, hey, you go with what you need for the environment that you live in, but you can go medium, you can go low, or you can go, you know, the big chunky boys and really get some serious magnification in there. The other cool thing about binos is if you're just out scouting or observing, they don't look tactical, like they don't look threatening. It's not like having like a spotting scope or something like that. So that's if you're trying to maintain a lower profile or look like a normal person and you're trying to gather intel or information, binos are the way to go. Now, when it comes to ranging, having a built-in rangefinder is absolutely awesome. However, we do live in a world where if you send out an IR laser just for a split second, there is technology that can lock onto you and send a shell straight down your throat in a heartbeat. So using the tech is not always the best option. We got to be thinking about how do we range things with low-tech, primitive options. And that's really where things like range cards come into play.
All right, ranging cards. There's a couple different styles. The first is just using your simple eyeball with a tool like this. We got this one from Agonic. It has an 18-inch string straight to the middle, and that distance matters. All you gotta do is put the string in your mouth and pull the string taut, and then you're gonna actually look through the slot that says man. I'll then look at the human being, and the height that he takes up inside of that window will tell me how far away he actually is. Now the next system is using your optic. We got this card that takes a lot of the calculations out of it. You don't have to break out your calculator and do a lot of math. So this is a ranging card where you will identify an item. I'm looking at a car, I'm looking at a human being, I'm looking at a stop sign, but you don't know how far away it is. So what you're gonna do is you're going to measure inside of your optic. It looks like he's taking up 2.2 mils. Then I'll come down to my card and I'll go, there's my item. I'm looking at a silhouette size target. He's taking up 2.2 mils, and sure enough, it looks like he's right at about 300 yards away. So again, all that this is really doing is just taking out the calculations and all the other work that you need by simply having a waterproof card that goes into your kit.
Now, one of the more inconspicuous observation information gathering tools is simply a camera. Your iPhone works, absolutely, and that in some cases would be the most incog thing you could use, right? But if you're looking for better image quality, better image clarity, way more megapixels, you could go with something like this. This is a Sony a7 IV with a Sigma 24-70 lens, and this is a pretty standard like photography, videography, like entry-level rig. And you would not look weird using it. And one of the cool parts about this is I can quickly capture an image and then just go away. And that goes into note taking also. One of the big things about having a notebook and a pen is that you can draw out, you can diagram like we talked about earlier, but that takes time and you have to be looking at it the whole time. With this, I can quickly take pictures of whatever is going on and leave. And when I get back home, I can pull it up on the screen, I can zoom in, I still get the same clarity, and I can draw an image from that or even just print it off and then make notes on it.
And wrapping up equipment, if you're gonna have some specialty tools, you're also gonna be responsible to maintain and care for those specialty tools. That may include batteries for all of your equipment, but then you also have to start thinking about items like, hey, I'm using a bag or a tripod to start being more stable so I'm more comfortable out there. Well, I've already had some of my bags that I've been shooting off of rip, which means that I need to have a cleaning kit that has some super glue, needles, and some twine or stitching. Also, if your rifle is going to be a precision weapon to some degree, the cleanliness of your rifle is gonna matter a lot too. We already did a whole video breaking down my personal in-field cleaning kit and what I use to make a tool like this operate at its highest level. So you can go check out that whole video. But if you're going to be carrying these equipment like cameras, optics, high-powered optics, bags, so on and so forth, you need to be able to know how to maintain them as well. And with that comes a little bit of equipment too. Now I know, of course, along with observation, we have to talk about recce, which also means we have to talk about recce guns. Now, the first thing that I have to say about that is if you're gonna own it, that still doesn't mean that you're good with it. And on top of that, even though you have a longer gun than maybe some of your other guys, you're still responsible to be a part of the team. So what does all of that mean? Well, first of all, you should be collecting data. Even some of the things that other guys aren't concerned about, like where's my first round impacting? What is my muzzle velocity? And how does the temperature actually affect my dope or me shooting out to greater distances? And with that information, you can start to positively influence and share information with your friends. But then there's the other side. Because you're a part of a team, you are also still responsible to be running those dot drills at 25 yards, practicing getting in and out of a car with your rifle and all of your other equipment. Your gear may not look the same, your gun may not look the same, but you still need to go take a CQB course with your primary rifle. And don't be swapping out to a 10-3 when you're telling yourself, hey, this is the role and responsibility that I'm gonna be playing. Now, we also can't tell you guys that we're professionals at this. We know exactly what we're talking about and we've been doing this for years. No, this is us sharing with you. We see a shift that needs to happen, and this is something that we're going to be working on as well. Now, gun and equipment selection, what should you actually go with? Well, here in the lower 48, or at least 49 of the 50 states, there is a very strong argument to be made for an AR in 5.56. First of all, there is mountains of ammo in every single state. Very easy to acquire it. Secondly, parts, mags, and accessories, they do wear out over time, and if you do need to acquire more, I don't want to have to go find parts for a SCAR rechambered in 6 ARC that's then taking only SCAR mags when I could just go trade goods or services for extra magazines, a recoil spring, or any of the above. So if your buddies are running a 308 SCAR platform, awesome, man, then maybe that's what you're gonna need to run with as well. But for pretty much everyone here in the States, an AR 5.56 is a really good way to go. Now, previously we've done some scoped carbine style content, and a lot of people were curious about the build that I was actually shooting there. This is a totally different gun that I'm playing with, but let me walk you through what this gun build is exactly. So on the front, I have a Diligent Defense Co. 7.62 suppressor with a 5.56 end cap, and this whole can thread onto my Q muzzle device. Then I have an 18-inch stainless steel Daniel Defense barrel, the rifle length gas system 1-in-7 twist, a Daniel Defense quad rail, and then I have a BCM upper, I have a Zev Tech lower, it's just one that I had in the safe, and then a Magpul stock that locks up really nice to the buffer tube. The Leupold Mark V optic has been tried and true for me for years. I have a flatline optics level up there so I can actually get my gun level when I'm shooting. The bipod is a Harris bipod with 419 accessories that I can easily take that bipod on and off as need be. And to round it out, I have a CMC trigger and then an offset Delta Point Pro. Ultimately, I'd love to actually get that Delta Point Pro mounted on top of my optic. I do think that top mounted red dots is king. I just don't have a mount for it yet. So I'm responsible to be good with the equipment that I have on hand, not ignore it until I actually get the items that I want. And clearly, guys, this is very entry-level stuff. You're probably thinking, man, these guys didn't even cover concealment,
Drone recon,
personal camouflage,
ghillie suits,
hide sites in a wooded area,
urban hide sites,
shooting theories like max point blank range and speed drop,
designated marksman,
and then doing all of these things in different temperatures like the snow versus the desert,
thermal signature reduction, and anti-drone tools.
And that list could go on, but all of these things exist inside of its own ecosystem of a well-prepared citizen who is capable of observing, noting, taking shots if need be, and then getting away while working along with another team to protect and defend themselves and their families.
And obviously that's too much to put into one video, but one of the things that we're most excited about this year, 2025 at DC, is the fact that we have these SMEs lined up to kind of walk us and you guys through all of this stuff so that by the end of the year, I think collectively we have a way more realistic understanding and perspective of what an American rifleman, what an American civilian recon guy should actually look like and be able to do way beyond just pulling a trigger.
Now guys, if you're interested in doing some of your own research and you're curious on how we, just regular citizens, learned any of this stuff, number one, YouTube, just like this. Number two, reading FMs and TMs, field manuals and training manuals. And why should you care beyond that? Well, the Taliban and the cartel are already learning all this stuff, and they've got a lot of very good equipment that you and I paid for with our tax dollars, and they're on our border, if not already inside of the United States.
Also, big thanks to all you guys on Patreon. We appreciate your support. If you're not involved with Patreon, you get early access to all of the content, and it's ad-free, which is pretty much just a wombo combo. So we will see you guys next week. And bang, bang. On you, bro.